Let's go off to Africa. So as a reaction to the increased fees on Bitcoin, users in Africa are moving to the Lightning Network and stablecoins. However, when it comes to transactions like cross-border payments and remittances, people have been greatly affected. Now, this is according to Lorraine Markle, a Kenya-based founder. She says the majority of the African population is not familiar with the Lightning Network, and more educators prefer onboarding newbies onto the Unchained network as it offers self-custody. I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking about El Salvador, all of the people who use Bitcoin, not just because the price goes up and down, but because it may be, a better solution for them than a lot of the other alternatives in their jurisdiction. And so, Will, I'm going to pass this off to you. We have really high Bitcoin fees, and sometimes in North America, we just say like the fees are high, and we don't connect the dots, think about people in other places of the world that maybe can't afford them.
Yeah, the two things here. First, I want to actually talk about like the fee problem. It's interesting that they're already bringing up that like stable coins and Lightning are sort of an alternative to using like base layer Bitcoin, and they're seeing increasing adoption. I would assume that it's probably pretty small at this point and maybe not even notable yet, because it does cost money to open up a Lightning channel if you don't have one open already, and most people don't have one open already. So most people are not going to open one if they don't have it open already because it's expensive to do so. And second, if you're using a stablecoin, that's a different network, and the fees have been higher in Ethereum, but like not crazy high. They're higher than normal, but not like exponentially high. So I wouldn't say that like there's necessarily a shift yet because of 1 week run up in fees. Now to like the fee thing, that definitely is like a pain point right now. And there's been a lot of talk on Twitter and a lot of other places talking about how like El Salvadorians who are moving to Bitcoin, or maybe Bitcoiners in Africa, are having to pay exorbitant fees to the network in order to process Bitcoin transactions, right? Nobody wants to pay $20 to spend $100 of Bitcoin. That's not great. The debate here, though, sort of brings you back to 2017, 2018, when there was like a lot of conversations about like, what is the point of Bitcoin on the L1 on the base layer? When I'm sending like $5 of Bitcoin to Zach, is the purpose just to send $5 of Bitcoin to Zach? Or is it like this larger thing where I'm supposed to be able to spend millions of dollars on chain, and banks can use it, governments can use it, institutions can use it? And that's sort of where we're seeing like this dissonance between two communities, where we have this group that's saying, hey, we should be able to use Bitcoin for cash, and this other group that's saying, hey, Bitcoin is this global platform for moving large amounts of money, and we'll get to the point where we're able to use it as like some sort of cash scheme, but we have to build those things in the future. And I think that's the clear difference here, is like the Ordinals community is on the ladder. They're saying like we still have a lot of engineering work ahead of us to be able to make Bitcoin actually usable for everyday people. It's not going to be the Bitcoin's current state. And a lot of these maximalist groups that are, look at the El Salvador cases, are saying the opposite. They're saying that Bitcoin should be used as cash right now. And there's going to only be like only more dissension between the communities over that fact. Zach, over to you.
Yeah, I saw like an Eric Wall or Udi tweet. I mean, they're kind of like the LeBron and AD of like the Ordinals, do anything you want on Bitcoin. So apologies if this is being misattributed, and it may be maybe a bit tongue in cheek, but the end game was always to facilitate, these layer 2 solutions, to drive people to Lightning, which has been, rather dormant in recent years, right? If the fees on Bitcoin base layer are so high that these layer 2 solutions actually need to find, a reason for being, that may be a fine outcome of these silly wizards that emerged with the Ordinals craze, right? And then subsequently these BRC20 things that we're seeing. So whether that is, an actual thesis or a stated goal of what the Ordinals are seeking to accomplish, or if it is just a tongue-in-cheek, hey, this is gonna be like sort of the follow-on effect from these fees getting so high. I think that ultimately could be a good thing, right? We've seen Lightning be out there for a number of years now, but not really take off in a meaningful way because Bitcoin fees have been relatively low because there's not a ton of stuff going on chain. So if that changes the conversation, like all of a sudden Lightning becomes more attractive, all of a sudden some of these Bitcoin L2s become more attractive, and that gets really, really interesting in terms of what like, hyper Bitcoinization could look like further down the road. But obviously it's a bit distant in terms of a prospect. And in the short term, those fees are squeezing out that $5 transaction that you mentioned, Will. And I think people are rightly concerned about that. But Jen, I saw your hand. I know I got to get you on the board for this one.
I'll go super quick. Will, you talk about the purpose of Bitcoin, but I think like when we look at people in El Salvador, the purpose for them really is to get cheaper, faster payments from one place to another. And that's what they've been told. That's why El Salvador implemented Bitcoin. And like maybe there are other reasons, but there are people who make a really low salary compared to what we make in North America, who think that the purpose of Bitcoin and who use Bitcoin for these cheaper, faster payments. And I think it's really unfortunate to see this solution that was supposed to be our remedy to the more traditional ways of getting remittances kind of amplify that problem again.